Today I'll be working on a 2013 Mazda 3. And this one has the 2.0 liter SKYACTIV motor in it. The truth. Today we're going to be changing the little seal right here. The only issue is we're going to have to be taking off the whole valve cover to get to that seal. This is the part number for the actual seal itself that's leaking. This is the part number for the valve cover gasket we also need to be putting on. You want to go ahead and pop your hood. Next, we're going to remove this engine cover by just pulling up on the corners here and then pulling out as well. It'll come right off, revealing our valve cover. Now, because we're going to have to be removing each one of these coil packs, we're going to go ahead and take the negative off the battery. Now, mine is a 10 millimeter, but just double check with your own to make sure you have the right size. I just like to tuck it away somewhere, just so it doesn't accidentally come back in contact with your negative terminal. Because I have a strut tower bar here, it kind of limits my room to work, so I'm going to go ahead and take these bolts out on each side and take the strut tower bar out, just so it gives me more room. Now that the strut tower bar is out of the way, I'm going to go ahead and start disconnecting sensors. Start with this little guy. Just kind of squeeze down on the top of him. Right down here. There it goes. Come on. Get off of there. And there it goes. Comes right off. Then we're disconnecting each one of the coil packs as well. Just trying to get this wiring harness out of the way as much as possible. I had to take up my gloves off to do this, but you squeeze down on the top of these guys and they pull right out. But yeah, again, I couldn't do it with gloves on my hands. But next, we're going to start disconnecting this wire loom. You can tell they got little clips on them. So what you're going to do is you're going to come in this side with a pair of needle nose and squeeze the bottom side of the clip, and these come right out. And I got another one right here. You should be able to access it right underneath this area. Got another one right here. You can access from this side. And this one right here to access. Once you get all these clips out, you're just going to move it out of the way, that we can get the valve cover off here in a second. But just kind of try and pull it out of the way. Next, we're going to be unclipping all the little hoses and lines that are on here. Looks like I'll be taking this one out, probably this side, maybe the other side, whichever way's going to be easier for me. Yep, looks like this side's coming out. Just a little vacuum hose. Then I've got, like this big yellow one is attached, but I should be able to squeeze. Let's see if I can get the camera in there. Squeeze the clip here. This guy should come off. All right, after these are removed, this guy, I think I might be able to work around him. So I can get to that bolt right there. And then when I take the valve cover off, I think you're just gonna wiggle it around this, but we'll check back in and see if we need to remove this in a little bit. But you're also going to want to remove your dipstick out of there. Get it out of the way. Next, I'm going to be taking out these 4 little bolts right here. Excuse me, 5. There's a 5th one. They hold on this bracket. They also hold down the coil packs. So once we get that off, we're going to be pulling the coil packs straight out. Once I take all the nuts off, I like to put them in a little Tupperware container just to keep track of them. But now we can remove this little bracket that holds the valve cover on. Excuse me, the cover for the valve cover. And when you start popping out, oh, no, there's little nuts on top of these too. I'm assuming they're probably 10 millimeter, just like all the other ones were. Now, we can go ahead and remove the 10 millimeters that are on here that hold the coil packs in. And coil packs come right out. This is a good time to inspect your coil packs too. If they're covered in like oil, that means your valve cover is leaking from inside where the rings are here. This one looks pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and take out the other ones as well. Now that we got all 4 coil packs out, we're going to go ahead and start taking out all these bolts that hold in the valve cover itself. There's one kind of tucked behind this hose right here. I'm going to try and maneuver this hose, just kind of out of the way to get to it. But they're all the way around, and there's a couple in the middle as well. There's one right there. One right here. So just make sure you get them all. Now that we have all our nuts and bolts in the container here, I'm going to set it aside. Now you're gonna nice and gently pry up on it. Again, I say gently because this is made out of plastic. We definitely don't want to break it. But because there's spots of silicone on the corners here, you gotta kind of put a little bit of force, and just be super careful when you do it. Your valve cover will come all the way off. Now with mine, the gasket stayed in place. I go ahead and gently remove it. But sometimes it'll be stuck in the valve cover itself. You just want to remove it out of there. Try not to drop anything down inside here, because it will get into your engine. Oh yeah, mine's so brittle it broke apart because there's still the O-rings for each one of the spark plugs still in place. Now that you got the whole gasket removed, I'm going to go through with a rag and a little bit of brake cleaner. And I'm just going to clean up the surface area where it's going to be mating. And if there's any spots like silicone, you have to like scrape them off. Just be super careful when you do, because you don't want to gouge the aluminum at all. Just try and take like a razor blade or something and try and scrape it off nice and easy. Again, when you're doing this, try not to drop anything down inside there. It's like using a rag. I'll scrape a little bit and I'll wipe it off the rag, scrape a little bit, wipe it off with the rag, just to keep all the contaminants on that rag instead of falling down inside every time. Once you have that all cleaned up, just double check your valve cover. Make sure it's also clear of any kind of debris on the underside. Now again, my gasket got stuck on the engine side, but if yours is in the valve cover, you have to take it out as well. Now when it comes to removing this gasket right here, which is the one that was leaking, I'm going to go ahead and flip it over. Just like how it's sitting on the car, I'm going to press on it. Get it to go in. Of course, mine's not going to be easy. I may have to use two hands to do this, so check back in just a second. Alright, I did have to use two hands. I put both my thumbs on each side, just kind of pressed in, and there it is. Go ahead and clean this out the best you can, get the inside and the out, just so we have a nice clean surface. Nice clean surface whenever we go to install the new one. Alright, so I got the new one right here. We're going to take a little bit of new oil, and we're going to lube it up just a little bit, all the way around, just so it eases in whenever I go to install it. Now that it's all lubed up, we're going to go ahead and put it back into place. We're going to press it in there as hard as we can. You want this little copper ring to seat all the way down on that plastic. Now we're going to take our brand new valve cover gasket, and we're going to run it in the channel for our valve cover, and also run it through all the little portholes for the spark plugs. Alright, now we're going to run a bead of silicone, just right here in this little seam. There's a little seam right back here, and along this ridge right here as well. Pretty much all the places that were silicone whenever you took the valve cover off to begin with. We're going to put a little bit more back on there just to help seal things up. Alright, once you got those in place, see the little bead right back there, little bead right there, we can go ahead and put our valve cover right back on. Just be careful putting it back into place. Be careful sliding it over the solenoid as well. And make sure all your wires are out of the way when you bring it in as well. And then also do a visual inspection all the way around. make sure your gasket didn't pop out anywhere. And also check down inside the spark plug tubes too. Everything looks good on mine, so I'm going to go ahead and start putting the bolts back in the cover to secure it down. There's a couple weird bolts. Just remember they came out. This one in particular comes right out of here. And make sure you get them all hand tight before you start hitting them with a wrench. Now we're going to torque down all those 10mm bolts to 5 foot-pounds or 7 Newton meters. Once you got all those torqued, I'm going to go ahead and reinstall my dipstick just to plug up the last hole that can fall into the actual engine. And now we're going to put in the coil packs to stop anything from falling into where the spark plugs are at. These guys just pop right down into the hole. Give them a good little firm push. Do not hit them with a hammer. They will break, and then you're going to be buying a new coil pack. Now we're going to be installing the bolts that hold them in. And again, get them started by hand. Go ahead and snug them up with a wrench. Next, I'm going to reinstall this bracket. Slides on top. Each one of those bolt holes. Right, there we go. And I'm going to put the 5 nuts on there. 4 across top, 1 down there. And just snug them up with a wrench. Now I'm just going to plug this vacuum line back in. Just going to press it back into the hose here. All the way down. There it goes. And I'm also going to plug this little yellow bracket back in here to this metal clip. Should just press right in. There it goes. Clip this line back in. Now I'm going to start clipping in all the wire loom clips. And also plug in all of our sensors. Make sure you get these in the right order. It's not too hard to mess it up. It's 1, 2, 3, 4. They're kind of already in line. And don't forget our sensor here. Now before I put anything else back on, I'm going to go ahead and clean all this oil up. And it kind of got down there and everything too, just from the engine running and stuff. But I'm going to clean all this. That way in the future, if anything else leaks, I'll be able to see it. That way you have a nice clean surface to be working with. Alright, much better. Now, I'm going to be putting the engine cover back on. Just kind of aligns. If I can do it while I'm on camera. There's 1. There's 2. There we go. I slide back and then press into place. There it goes. Now again, if you're like me and you have the strut tower bar, we're going to reinstall that. Once we got the strut bar back in place and nice and tight, we're going to go ahead and put the negative back on the battery terminal. And don't forget to tighten that guy up too. Once that's good and tight, you can cover it back up. You should be good to go. Well, I hope this video helped anyone in the same situation as me. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comment section below and I'll try and answer them as soon as I can. Bye.